Welcome to Arts and Music. I am your host, Victor Janflone. Today I'm pleased to bring you Hellmut Wolf, aka the Wolfman. Welcome, Hellmut Wolf, to the show today. I want to first offer condolences about your mother.
Thank you.
Yeah. To just get it started, I always start from the very beginning, at least with my guest. I try to, because, it's about you. So, where did you grow up?
First 5-6 years in a little town called Bretten in the south of Germany, and then moved on to the Black Forest for a couple of years with my family, and then another town, Essen by Limburg, for a year, and then my whole teenage time was in Koblenz, beautiful city of Koblenz.
Now, the Black Forest, is that the Black Forest?
Yeah, it's close to Baden-Baden, you might have heard of.
Uh-huh.
The village was called Gansbach, and I always have these memories around our house was just a massive grass field, and then a little river, just a small river, and then it went up into the mountains, and a great place to grow up and play with nature and stuff.
Yeah, I myself had that, I had the countryside to grow up in, which was really nice. And I'm glad, very glad that I had that, to use the imagination a lot, Is your family a musical family?
My father was a keyboarder and violinist, so came down from him, I guess. And my oldest brother used to play guitar. My next older sister used to sing, actually. She did vocal competitions at 14, 15. My next older brother is a very good guitarist and also drummer. So I would say yes.
When did you get into music yourself?
When you say getting into it, I was getting really into music way before I started playing an instrument, at 11, 12 or so. Led Zeppelin 2 and Deep Purple and rock and Taste on the board, Jimi Hendrix, the Stones, all of these guys. And I just listened. I was just listening to music. And only when I was 14, my music teacher came to me and says, "This is a flute and I'm giving it to you and my wife's going to give you lessons." And I couldn't say no to him. So that's how I got started. Before that, I was just a musician, a music lover. And I was a roadie at 12. I started being a roadie for this local band in Koblenz called Vatican. So I learned a lot about sound mixing and setting up drum sets and carrying B3 organs.
The progression to your first band that you actually performed with, and that was probably still in Europe, right?
Yeah, I was 14. I just had played flute for 3 or 4 months or 5 months. And after about 3 months, I went to work and bought my own flute and gave the flute back to the teacher and said, "Thank you for getting me started. But unfortunately, I cannot continue the lessons of your wife." And so at least she taught me where to put my fingers and how to get a sound out of it. Mm-hmm. But I did not want to do all the stuff that she wanted me to do. So I then started to play by ear, just jam along with my records and just jam what fits and what works. And then I found out about pentatonic scales. Oh, they always work. When you know where you are, it always kind of works. So that was a big part of my musical development, finding out what works, what it sounds to, and all via my ears. And yeah.
Pentatonics. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, all of blues and rock and all the music is all based on pentatonic with a throw blue note in there or something, Yeah, if you want to sound jazz, you just go right next to that.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. What was the first official band that you performed in?
Like that first was not my official. It was really my brother's band, and they were playing. And at the last moment, last song with encore or something, he asked me, I had my flute there, and I was playing a bit. I was just doodling around really. Um, then my first official band in that way was called Steeple Eltron. That's like 1.5 years into it now.
Mm-hmm.
And they were the absolute top rock jazz band in my town, Koblenz. I used to go watch their concerts, be a total fan of them. And they fired their sax player because he didn't show up to a gig or something. And then they asked me. They must have heard about that I'm playing flute if I wanted to join, so I did. And that was everything for me. It was like, it's like what I lived for, going to rehearsals and trying to get it as good as I could. Then maybe 8 months later, I'm not sure exactly, they fired me because I wasn't good enough. I remember walking away with my flute and crying, and almost I threw the flute away, but I kept it. Interesting thing, then we put a new band together called Odds and Ends, um, and then we played at a festival after Steve Elton, and we really, really did well there. So that was a nice comeback for me.
Mm-hmm. I see you lived in Australia for a while. What took you to Australia?
Yeah, I lived in Australia 24 years. I had always wanted to go there already after high school. My sister lived there, my older sister. After high school, I worked and got a ticket and everything, but then they wouldn't give me a visa, so I couldn't go then.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then later, when I was around 33, I lived in Holland and I had a studio there and I was working and touring and stuff. Um, this guy who owned the studio there was just setting up in Byron Bay in Australia, and he asked me if I wanted to come there and be a house producer and be part of what they're doing there. So I went down, had a look at it, and then went back to Europe 4 months later or so, and kind of packed up over here and went down to Australia.
The move to Australia was purely for just to get away, or were you really wanting to do music and that was your main goal?
Look, as I said, Australia always I was interested in. I lived 10 years in Holland, and Holland is lots of rain and it's cold, and I was dreaming of palm trees, you know? And so when I had the opportunity to go down there to do some work, I was also in '87, I was there and I did some workshops, and I really fell in love with it then. It's just so different in Europe, it's like you're almost in a different world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and yeah,
It's somewhere I've always wanted to go, but I never made it there, so I don't know if I ever will now.
well, right now everything is weird with this virus situation. So
Mm-hmm.
it's terrible what's going on there. It's really depressing, the whole thing. I mean, we are so lucky that we have at least the internet and we can communicate and we can, in a way, work just stuff that you do digitally. So we're very lucky about that in a way.
Yes, agreed. And I've seen that you had performed with George Clinton. Can
That
I
was
get?
once, yeah.
Yeah, but can you hear the story about that?
Yeah, Sydney Barnes, who is on Wolf Entertainment, is an old friend of George. I was in Atlanta 4 or 5 years ago, I'm not sure, something like that, and met Sydney. So we became a little bit friends. I did some other productions with him and Pick Up the Pieces, a version of that we did together. Anyway, so when George came to Sydney for a gig, Sydney set it up that I could go backstage, bring my horn, and say hello to everybody, and hopefully sit in somehow. And it was funny. It was like almost the end of the gig, and I thought it was not going to happen. I went backstage and packed up my sax, and suddenly somebody comes running, screaming, "Where are you? Where are you? Got to play. George wants you to come and play." So I put the sax out again, ran on the stage, and here was the whole thing happening. George was there, and George held the microphone while I was doing my solo. A great moment, really great moment. Place went really crazy, and it's fun to having George standing there, holding my mic.
Helmut, how much do you think the music industry has changed since the 1980s?
Massively, because back then you needed musicians to hear music. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's no radio, there's no CD, there's no MP3 or anything else like that. So they had to have a lot of musicians back then to serve all the people who wanted to have some music. So that's the main, real, big, basic difference I would suggest. Yeah, it's just you had to have a live musician to hear music.
This day and age, though, electronics, you think, has taken away a lot of the personnel factor?
Look, when I grew up, the people we listened to, they could play the instruments. They could really play. And I think that musicality also reflected in a way in their songwriting. And I think in a sense, we have dropped quite a lot there. If you look at the songs now, it's like a very different story, you know, and it's just all production and auto-tuning and whatever. So it's really, and then the rest is marketing. So I really personally still like real musicians, people who make real music and play real instruments. Fair enough, the rap culture and the urban culture, you know, they have made their own creation and their own development. So there's nothing to say against that. But at the same time, not having real musicians playing music anymore kind of, I think, diminished the musicality of everything.
I agree. How do you personally produce a musical work?
It really depends. It very much depends what's required, what's needed, what the project is, where it's going to be recorded, if parts already have been. There's so many variables. If you need, you know, a full big studio to do drum recording or symphony orchestra recording, so it really depends. We just recorded eight songs for Sydney producer Robert Moss, and he wrote these pieces, which were for symphony orchestra and a female Chinese English singer. And so we decided then to go to Prague, and we got Martin Ford, who is a fantastic conductor, over to Prague and recorded these tracks over there. They have a very, very good studio. And then brought them back to London and did a quick mix on that, and then recorded Fifi Wrong, excuse me, the singer, and then we mixed and mastered it. So now we have released the first two of these tracks. So again, that's a production totally different than I have anything that I've done before.
Mm-hmm. What kind of music do you like to listen to?
I think I'm a bit biased. I'm listening mostly to Wolf Entertainment music. Most when I just listen to music to listen, I just put on our radio station and just let it play.
Mm-hmm.
And I honestly, when I drive in the car and I have like an FM station on and I listen to the radio, that stuff mostly does not get to me. And then when I play CDs, when I'm driving around, yeah, Keith Jarrett I like, Chick Corea, Stanley Clarke, guys like that.
How many records have you put out, and do you have a favorite?
I don't actually know how many records I've put out of my own music.
Yeah, you're on.
It's a lot of them is singles also, so it kind of, if I use the overview, maybe 5, 6, 7 records, like full-length records,
Mm-hmm.
6, 7, and then another 30, 40, 50 singles or so released,
Mm-hmm.
something like that. And the favorite is, funny enough, it's called Dance Your Animal. I did it with a dear friend who's not with us anymore. Frank Natale was a professor trance, and he was a shaman, he was a therapist, he was a teacher, and he did a whole bunch of other albums, which is all about trance dance. And then this last one we did before he passed on, we did together, and that's now maybe 17, 18 years ago, and it still has legs. That album is still going very well. People listen to it all over the world. write me about it. I have sometimes on one of the songs in India, this is interesting, like in a quarter, 350,000, 400,000 streams on one of those songs of that album. So you just never know where the music goes and who likes it or what.
Was that recorded in Australia?
That was recorded in Australia, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I had a studio there in Australia, and it was actually, this is the only album I ever recorded, which was fully recorded on Acid. You know the software Acid?
I heard of it first in Europe when I was in Europe. What is Wolf Entertainment?
It's a label that I've created over the last 10 years. Literally, this December will be 10. Yeah, I worked at two other labels before doing A&R, and then whatever the reason was that finished there. At some point, I started my own thing I called it Wolf Entertainment. And we have about 60, 85, something like 70, 80, 85 artists that are signed with us for distribution and marketing. And we work together. I give them advice. I connect them. It's like, it's very interesting to work with so many wonderful musicians around the world.
Mm-hmm. And how has COVID-19 been affecting the business this year?
I lost a lot of business because people wanted to do productions. We had 3 tours organized through Europe in the summer. They didn't happen. We already have planning a tour for next year that we're not sure if it's going to happen. Musicians basically are running out of money very quick because they have no more gigs, no more concerts. It's a very dire situation, very difficult situation, and I would say it's around the world like that. Yeah.
What makes you interested in signing an artist?
First of all, it's got to be music that is obviously well played, well produced, well done, and then a certain musicality, certain that I know what's behind it, kind of feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so if I like the music, if I like what I hear, really that's the basis of it. And afterwards, obviously, I look, do they have a following? Do they have a website? Do they have marketing behind them? And then still, that's just a bunch of information, but I don't base a decision if I sign them or not just on that. But the music is the basis.
Mm-hmm.
The other things, the other outside influences, I've signed bands that had no following just because I really, really love the music. And, over years now, they have created a following, they're starting to chart, and that's a beautiful thing to see.
Have you produced some of the artists on Wolf Entertainment?
Oh, yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Most of them do their own production, but I have produced few of them, some of them. I do quite a lot of mastering for some of them. Like Peter Irock, I did mixing of his album Horizon and do mastering for him. Horizon is an amazing electronica album. If you have a chance to hear it, that was very exciting to mix. There's like 75, 80 tracks per song. King Harrison, his last 2 singles, he recorded all the instruments in the States, in Vegas. And then he came over here. He was in London, actually, the last gig of Neil Diamond. And then after that gig, he flew down here to south of France, and we redid the vocals for a couple of days for these 2 songs. So I produced his vocal recording in that sense, and then I mixed it all and mastered it all here. So stuff like that.
And King Harrison was in he was in an early James Bond movie.
Yeah. Yeah. He's a wonderful, wonderful man. When we did that work back then, I had the chance to meet him in person the first time. We spent 2, 3 days together here in the south of France, and I got drunk together after the work and stuff. And this wonderful person to meet, a wonderful man.
Yeah, yeah. And he just released a new record, is that right?
He released a new record, yes.
Uh-huh.
I think maybe 6 months ago, 8 months ago, something like that.
Yeah.
The two songs we did are on that record, yeah.
Oh, okay. What is the Wave of Love Festival?
It's a big name. The idea came many years ago to me. It was about running an ongoing concert around the world, like as the time follows the clock, so to say. Just recently, I figured, okay, I don't want to wait any longer. I'm just going to do the first one and just make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And we're using Wolf entertainment artists, or using a bit like all the artists in the Wave of Love Festival are Wolf entertainment artists from New Zealand, from Melbourne, Australia. Then we're going to um, China, Moscow, South America, Nigeria, Norway, England, Venezuela, New York, Atlanta, Phoenix, Arizona, Los Angeles, and Vancouver. And so we'll have from all these places 1 or 2 hour long concerts with local Wolf entertainment bands that are performing there.
Mm-hmm.
If COVID lets us, so hanging a little bit over the whole thing. But at the same time, it's being broadcast from each of those locations,
Uh-huh.
creating as it goes around the world an ongoing 24-hour concert.
Kind of like New Year's throughout the world.
That's where I got the idea from.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly like that.
Yeah.
In New Zealand, it's Freeze. She's a great rapper,
Yeah.
local New Zealand Maori girl, and she has a whole team with her. They're doing merchandise, hats, jackets, all of that. So they're a great little production team next to being a great music team down there. And in Melbourne, it's her, my old friend Jerome Smith, and his girl Mish. And the other act is called Alejandro Adams. And Ali played with me when I lived in Melbourne for 10 years or so, 8 years. I didn't live there so long, 5 years maybe, in a band together. So um, I know these guys really well because I lived down there and we made a lot of music together. So next we're going to Beijing, China, and it's Oscar T, who is a really great South African singer who lives and works in the China five-star hotel music scene there. And then we're going to Moscow, very excited about that. And there's a very good bass player who's been with me for many years,
Mm-hmm.
Victor Levchenko, and his very funky band is called Smotri. Very sexy and great singer, front woman and front guy. They're a really strong couple. And awesome drummer, great bass player. Victor's a bass player and a great guitarist. Very, very cool band. And then we're going to South Africa. It's an artist from Muafa Records that we are distributing, and that's our connection to Africa.
Mm-hmm.
So we have two Muafa Records artists, one from South Africa and one from Nigeria. So it's Meganati is from South Africa, and he's going to do an hour from down there, and then we're going to an hour to Nigeria, and Suki is his name. They're both rappers, so they'll be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're going to Norway for an hour for Swedish Norwegian rock band Rebel Gel. Rebel Gel have been with me for 5 hours. They just released a new album. Very, very cool Swedish rock band. And then we're going to England. We have a band called Broken Lines. It's really good old English 60s, 70s rock. Very cool. And then a guy called Simon Emanuel, very good guitarist, and he's going to just do guitar rock with his band. And then we go to Venezuela, Caracas, and we have three fantastic metal bands down there. Overhead,
Nastator?
Natastor,
Yeah. Yeah.
and Sick Feel.
Mm-hmm.
And they just joined. Overhead has been with us for 8 years or so, but Natastor and Sick Feel just joined us this year together also with another band from Venezuela called Grand Bite. Uh, but these three are going to play at the festival, and that's going to be just a blast. Basically, 2 hours of metal coming out of this South American country. Looking forward to that. Yeah, and then we're going to change the mood and going to New York City and have an hour of jazz with George A. Johnson Jr.
Nice.
Um, After that, we're going to Atlanta. Kenny Keith, keyboarder and producer, and he will be supported by Stan the Man Hampton and Victoria Horn on vocals, and Stone Johnson out of Atlanta. And then we're going to Phoenix. That's a one gun.
One guy.
And then Los Angeles. By that time, we're going to need some wake-uppers to stay awake and watch it all. Anyway, it's a Baron Bordeaux guitar, and I'm hoping that King Harrison is actually going to join him. King said he wanted to come down and be part of it. And then we have Howard Westbrook, who is a wonderful guitarist and bass player, joining them as well. And we have a new band that we just signed. I always want to say Mental Decay, but they're called Moral Decay. Really cool rock band, LA surfy kind of rock band. And then we're going to finish up in Vancouver with HB Wild. Nice. They want to throw a big party there in a warehouse. We'll have a bunch of bands playing before it's their slot, because their slot's going to be at 2 a.m. or something, local time. So we had to kind of squeeze it all in so it works with going around. And there's a difference, like the Moscow concert, because of the time difference with China. Moscow concert is at 4 in the afternoon. So you had to kind of squeeze it to make it all work.
Right, yeah. Now, the last HB, is HB related to Jimi Hendrix?
Yeah, he's Jimi Hendrix's cousin, yeah.
Jimi Hendrix's cousin, yeah. Yeah, I like some...
Wonderful producer,
I like his music,
bass player, singer. HB is really, really special.
As well as everybody on Wolf Entertainment. So everybody listening here, check out Hellmut and Wolf Entertainment. And it would be Wolf Entertainment Australia is the website, I believe. It was a .au.
Well, yeah, because we started this up in Australia, so the web address is wolfentertainment.com.au. And I'm at 2 minds right now. I should change it into Germany. Wolfentertainment.com is already gone. So at the moment, that's what it is. And the Wave of Love Festival also has a website, which is waveoflovefestival.com.
Very good. Very good. I was going to put a video of Sunrise here in the show. When did you actually do that? And who was on that with you?
About 8 years ago, I would say. I was around there. Peter Moore, who wrote the song and recorded everything but the sax and the vocals, I did that in Atlanta. And then I recorded the sax. And then this wonderful singer, Brittany Chante, she was just through a friend of mine, film director, film producer, visiting. And I said, come on, let's try this.
Yeah, she got a beautiful voice.
Yeah, and so we did, we worked on it 2-3 hours, and that's what we recorded at that time, at that moment. And then mixed it down and finished it off, and Peter liked it, so we released it. And then maybe 6 months later, we decided to do a video for it. And the idea was that Peter does it in Atlanta, his bits, and Brittany was going to come back from the States to Sydney, and she and I were going to record us playing the song in the various Sydney locations. And that's what we did. And then we mixed it, we edited it in Sydney.
How did you get the nickname Wolfman?
Uh, Look, I mean, it's not that far away because my name is Wolf. In high school, they used to call me Lupo because in Latin, lupus means wolf or el lobo in Spanish. So they used to call me Lupo, used to be my nickname in high school. And then later, I think it was when I lived in Holland, there was an American guy, a drummer. He was in my band, Frankie. And he started calling me Wolfman, and I think it kind of stayed from there, developed from there. And at some point, I took it over as my artist name. Um, like before that time, this is like late 80s or so, I had different band names. Like I had, for a long time, a band called Dr. Mad and the Misfit Clinic.
Mm.
And so I think around from that time on, late 80s, it kind of, the Wolfman got stuck, yeah.
Where do you hope to see yourself 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I would like to do the same as what I'm doing now. I like to work with musicians. I like to make music. I like to be more successful. I would love that the Wave of Love Festival by then has become a real wave. And that every time it goes around, it just cleans the world with more love. I mean, just because we need more love in this world, you
Oh,
know?
yes.
I mean, it's so easy. And music for me is an expression of love. And so every time you do a Wave of Love Festival, it can clean up a little bit more of the stuff that's going on here.
Hmm.
And left, right, center, whoever you talk to, it doesn't matter who their political opinion is, even what religion they are, whatever. When you start playing music, people open up. So
Yeah.
it's a very strong communicator for open heart and for communication. So I'll do everything to make more music, and I know it's difficult right now with the concerts. I hope in 5 years we definitely can do gigs again and tour and bring live music to people.
Hmm.
So, like that.
I hope so too, just even for the business I'm in. So, you know, and music is a wonderful communicator, um, and the sensitivity involved. As I was talking to you about the sensitivity and how we both, I believe, are very kind of sensitive people, but this sensitivity gives you creativity, I believe. So,
Yeah, and vice versa. If you're sensitive, you become more creative, and if you're more creative, you become more sensitive. So it
mm,
supports each other.
it's like the yin and yang.
Yeah.
Well, Helmut, I really appreciate your time, and I thank you so much for being on the show.
Victor, I very much thank you for bringing me on your show. And it's since we have gotten connected and got to know each other more and more, I really appreciate you and appreciate your company and our working together and your music.
Oh, thank you so much, and we will continue to do this to the future for sure.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, have a great day, Helmut, and thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye
Okay.
bye.
Bye. Thank you for watching Arts and Music. And if you would like to be a guest on the show, please email us at artsandmusicpgh@yahoo.com. And until next time, peace.